Welcome back to Small Caps. My name's Kerry Stevenson, and today I'm going to be bringing you something a little bit different. It's a company called iCandy Interactive. The ASX code is ICI. I'm delighted that joining me today is Kin Wai Lau. He is the chairman and non-executive director. He's based up in Singapore, so he's joining me today. Kin, great to see you. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, Kerry. Pleasure to be here.
Well, Ken, I actually did a little bit of research on you before we started. And before we get into iCandy Interactive, you're also CEO of Fatfish Group. You're a real entrepreneur and you love entrepreneurship and you love technology. And I guess that's what iCandy Interactive is. It's all about entrepreneurship and technology. So give our listeners a little bit of a brief background of who is iCandy Interactive.
Absolutely. iCandy Interactive is a game development and publishing company. We started out in Singapore about probably close to 7 or 8 years ago as a game studio. We soon grew and we listed ourselves on the ASX in 2016. That's been 4 years now. We have developed more than 300 over game titles. We have more than 350 million downloads worldwide. We mostly publish our games predominantly in English format, but we regularly publish some of our games in up to 8 or 9 other languages as well. So we are very well played by our community in terms of the games that we make. We work very closely with the gamers community that we serve.
Ken, I'm really curious. So you listed back in 2016. Where did you see that there was a gap in the market? Because there are other companies doing games and game development. And I noticed that you've recently launched a new game, Masketeers, which has done $1 million in revenue in 60 days, which is extraordinary. What do you think? Where was the gap? And what is iCandy filling? Like, why are you doing so well in this market?
Absolutely, Kerry, you got it hit on with that. When we first started the company, we saw a very big gap in terms of how the game industry landscape looks like back then. So there is obviously a major AAA studio that spent tens of millions of dollars making major hit titles, companies like Blizzard, EA, huge amount of budget, 10,000 people easily employed globally, very focused on big titles on console and PC as a platform. Whereas on the other end of spectrum, you have a couple of college kids right out of their dorm trying to make a game for smartphones. It was at the beginning of the uptake of the whole smartphone trend at the time. About 7 or 8 years ago, it was still a very small segment of the market and it was niche. By today, the smartphone gaming market is bigger than both console and PC combined. So it's the biggest gaming market in terms of platform. It's probably about 50% of the gaming revenue globally today. So when we saw that, we saw a gap to really run a professionally managed studio that has a big group of creative people with an aim of putting together resources, have good management, have good marketing ability to produce games on a very professional level for mobile phones or smartphones, casual games, and then roll out and serve the gaming community on a very professional basis. So that was our formula, and we continue to stick to that. From a 5-person studio back then to where we are today, we're about 70 professionals working in the studios that we own. We continue to run that philosophy today.
So do you bring together the best game producers, I guess, from across the world, but do they work for iCandy or are they independent and then you help market them?
The 70 over professionals I mentioned, we are all full-time employees. Occasionally we will work with some freelance contractors, but that's far and apart. So we only work with our own in-house studio mostly.
Okay, so it's a big market. We all know that I'm talking to you towards the end of 2020, which has been a challenging year. Has the gaming market, because of COVID and a lot of people either working from home and using their smartphones more, are you seeing that the market for what you're doing is exponentially increasing, or is it about the same? Is the market growing a lot?
Absolutely. Since March, I think the global pandemic situation has a major positive impact on gaming industry, and I think to a certain extent the entire digital and tech world as well. So there are two factors, right? So one would be a lot of people are locked in at home, they are working from home, they are looking for all sort of digital entertainments, whether it's watching Netflix or playing games. That's going to be a major part of their life at home. Adults, kids, college kids. So everyone has various need in terms of getting themselves entertained. Gaming as industry has just taken off. It grew mostly exponentially throughout that last 9 months we are in. But that didn't stop there, I believe. What we are seeing is also, even though for countries who are coming out of that lockdown situation, we continue to see increasing gaming activities. Yeah. So I attribute this to what I think is the second factor, the digital behavior of consumers globally have been accelerated by the pandemic situation. I personally estimate this is a good 5 years of accelerated digital behavior. People are spending more time doing things digitally on their phones, on PC, on TV, more than ever. And this behavior, I think, will be around because it's not going backwards. It's definitely going forward. So it's just that whole accelerated process that has brought a lot of uptake in terms of market activities, especially for gaming.
Do you know, I completely agree with you. It's interesting you said 5 years. I often say to people, I think COVID has just pulled forward what was inevitably going to happen, but it's brought the future into the present. Now, let's talk from an investment point of view. You listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. It's interesting because I'm talking to you up in Singapore. I'm curious as to why you chose the ASX to list, number one. And number two, from an investment point of view, why do you see that ICI right now is a good company to invest in?
Absolutely. When we first look at this thing on the ASX, we love it because I think the investors base on the ASX, they understand venture. Any technology company, it's always a venture. We are somewhat a bit more risky than manufacturing or traditional industry, but it has a huge upside potential because of the length and breadth of the market that we address. I almost equate this to digging the digital gold. You know, as a company, of course, we have a lot of potential. We understand what we are doing. It's going after that digital goal. Once you hit it, you could be really big. And I think ASX-based investors understand that. Of course, traditionally with mining companies, junior miners on ASX, there is a lot of appreciation and appetite for that type of trajectory. Hence, we got ourselves listed. So it was the best decision ever we made compared to thinking about listing in any other jurisdiction. The second part to your question, I besides being a gamer myself and as an investor, I firmly believe that this whole gaming sector, especially the winners who have emerged victoriously out of this whole last 5 to 10 years, I think it's definitely gaining a lot of momentum, not just because of the COVID situation, as I mentioned, but I think in general, it's a macro trend. I term this as a global macro trend where gaming, smartphone devices that will continue to grow. You have a lot of catalysts coming up in the next couple of years as well, 5G being one of them. You have a super well connected device with you all the time at amazing speed with very little latency. What does that mean? It's a major gaming device you are carrying with you anywhere, anytime. Turn it on, play a couple of games with your mates, enter into esports competition, just entertain yourself with your favorite game titles. So it's just a lot of things that will be coming to consumers' way. Innovation that we have not seen before can be easily unlocked with better phones are getting better hardware, connectivities are getting better. So all these come in together as a major trend. It's definitely going to spur gaming into a very big uptrend, I believe. Now, and I also mentioned about the winners, companies who have made it over the last 5 to 10 years. I think that's important. Obviously, for every successful game company you see today, there are probably another 20 that have failed in the past 5 years. So these are, I would equate, these are companies who have now professionals, game creators, managers who understand how to create sustainable business and how to ride on the industry trend. So I would absolutely think that investing in iCandy with our track record of whether it's winning awards, gaining a lot of user within our 350 million wide community worldwide, and also hitting the commercial milestones that we have done over the last 2 years, it's just a very good proposition for investors.
Well, speaking of awards, you were part of the AFR Fast 100 for 2020. I think you were listed as the 25th fastest rising company in the AFR Fast 100. So congratulations on that one. What do you think? I got to say it. I'm going to say it. What's the game changer for iCandy? What is it? What's your game changer? What makes iCandy something that is different from the others out there? And are there many other, like, you mentioned EA and Blizzard before, are there many other listed gaming companies at the moment, or are you, I just don't know the answer to that.
There are, well, considering that video game is a $60 billion industry,
wow,
far bigger than Hollywood movie industry as a whole, for example. There are not that many listed game company in the world. So in fact, it's interesting. You have on one hand the EA and Blizzards, a lot of US-based companies who are listed obviously in New York and NASDAQ. Then you have various, just a handful of Chinese internet companies. Tencent, for example, one of the most valuable Chinese internet companies, it has made about half of its revenue from gaming by itself. NetEase is probably the only pure breed gaming company in terms of Chinese internet company. So there are not that many companies. So you have on one hand US-based gaming company, on the other hand Chinese gaming companies. There are not that many companies in between. For iCandy, I think we are very well positioned in Australia, in Southeast Asia, to be a third force, if you like, understanding the Asian context, which is a very important gaming market, as well as serving the Western market like the US and Europe that we have been working with traditionally. So I think we have that potential to be culturally very different as a game company, and we could be potentially best of both worlds, if you like. I think that's a very important proposition for companies like iCandy. The gaming landscape is fast changing as well. Take China, for example. We are not big in China today. We have very little activities, but nevertheless, it's definitely a market that we will work very hard on, and we are making some inroads there. It's a very important market. It's just slightly behind North America in terms of the commercial potential of the market. About 10 years ago, we talked to people about Chinese gaming market. Nobody think too much about it, but it has changed completely. Now it's the second biggest market in the world. So I think iCandy, we have that product base. We have track record, award-winning track record. We have the user base. We have served gamers in US, Europe, and we have partnership with major Chinese company, right? For example, we just did a partnership with Alibaba last year to launch one of our games into the Chinese game market. Of course, the next big thing for us now is to figure out how to get Masketeers to launch in the Chinese market, which is something that we are working on currently.
What's your timing on launching Masketeers into the Chinese market, which, as you said before, is second only to the US market?
Very soon. We are gaining huge amount of momentum worldwide with Masketeers. We believe that it will be very popular in the Chinese market as well. So I would say very, very soon in the near horizon, we are looking into getting that game into the Chinese market.
So the Chinese market, the US market, there's a lot of markets out there. Do you feel like you're only just getting started because your share price got as high as 20 cents recently? It's had a bit of a pullback as I'm speaking to you today. Your share price is sitting at about 13, 14 cents. Do you think there's a lot of upside to come and a lot of growth for the company?
Oh, absolutely. I think we are just getting started. We are on a major expansion mode currently. With the success that we have with Musketeer, the board of directors feels very confident about now is the right time for us to really expand ourselves aggressively in terms of improving our production capability, improving our marketing ability. We are about 70 people today. We want to go up to about 150 to 200 people within the next 12 to 18 months. That's an ambitious plan, but we have a pipeline filled with game titles and ideas that we know it's going to be very potential. So it's just about ability to get that resources and production capability up as soon as possible. We did a joint venture with a major game art and animation studio called Lemon Sky. Probably I would equate them to probably one of the top 3 game art and animation studio in the world, having worked at major game titles across the world in last 20 years. Every single big AAA title you can think of, Lemon Sky Studios has worked on it. So we just did a 50-50 joint venture with them. I'm sure it will produce amazing game with stunning graphics and storytelling ability. So there's so much to look forward to as a company with a 60 billion market size that is growing by day. So it's just amazing time to be sitting where we are today, well positioned to tap the growth. So I certainly think that there is a lot of potential upside for the company. Just to address that share price, I'm slightly disappointed with that pullback of share price as well. I certainly think that we are quite a bargain at the moment. As if I put on my investor thinking cap currently, I think that the company has been making amazing news flow last 3 months. It's really exciting. Everyone on the ground feel it, and in the studio there are heaps happening every single day. We are just working non-stop around the clock, preparing for the next big event coming, like Christmas and the year-end holiday season is coming up. That's a major gaming period for everyone, because people are visiting, people are having holiday. They just pick up their phone and play. We are preparing various online events, and we have various Christmas season theme content to launch into our games as well. So it's really a very busy time for us currently.
Okay, I've got 2 more questions to quickly ask you before we run out of time, Kin. The first one is funding. How well funded are you going into, because you talked about expansion from 70 to 150. You talked about markets that you want to go into. How well funded are you for that? And finally, let's just answer that one first.
We just completed a raise, successfully raising $10.5 million in record time as well. The book building process was super fast. With that balance sheet, we are in a very, very strong position. Our revenue obviously is growing with Masketeers and various other new games. I think we are funded for at least easily next 3 to 5 years easily. So we are very well positioned in terms of funding. It's just super comfortable at this stage to expand and continue to market our games in the international market.
Well, that's good to hear. As a potential investor, it's always good to hear that you're well funded. My final question is your current market penetration and where do you think you could go to?
I think we're at a stage where we cover the mid-core casual game genre very well. This basically means games that anyone can play, and if you want to play it a bit more seriously, you will play our games for anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 months. That is genre that we are producing a lot of games and winners in. For us, is now to move on to a higher level, potentially what we call the probably the hardcore casual games level. So these are for more serious gamers, and it will monetize better. Not only that, I think we've been very well marketed in the English-speaking markets, but now it's really to put more effort into other languages as well. Culturally, of course, there are some nuances. We are very interested in, for example, the South Asian market. India has shown a lot of potential as a gaming market. We have not penetrated it well yet. Of course, Chinese, the market we are working on. Obviously, that's a major priority for us. It's just lots of upside. Well, I think worthwhile to mention that emerging market, like emerging countries, actually one of the fastest growing segment of the gaming market globally. And it's very interesting that these gamers from emerging market has skipped a generation of devices. So the first gaming device they know is actually the smartphone. And with 5G and with powerful phones, they will continue to look for good content digitally on the phone to get entertained on. So those market is growing amazingly, and as a company we have all the right people to understand those cultural nuances which could make or break a game. There are games who were insensitive to cultural issues and got backlash, for example. So we pay a lot of attention to those type of details, and I think we could be making games for that growing segment of the market.
Kin, I know that you're a very busy man. I so appreciate your time today. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up? But I tell you, I'm getting excited because I can see the potential and the huge growth because you're only really just getting started. And I have to say, I did, because everyone knows that I'm a bit of a gold nerd, so I loved your comment, digging digital gold. Well said, like that. Any final comments for our listeners today?
Try out our games. Those who have not played games on your phone before, try it out. It's never too late to start.
How do we find you, Kin? Where do they find the games? Tell me how, if I want to play a game.
On Apple, it's on the App Store. On iOS, and then it's on Android, it's the Play Store. And if you have a Samsung phone, we just recently launched with Samsung on the Samsung Store, so you could find it on your phone for sure.
And of course, don't forget, if you'd like to invest, it's the ASX. This is not investment advice. We're just bringing you information, but the ASX code is ICI. Kin Wai Lau, thank you so much for joining us today on Small Caps, and we'll probably speak to you next year when you've totally grown to another level.
Thanks, Kerry. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.